Peace. Nah, let me stop. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, though. For those who don't know, it's Vic Slang Hope, and I got another book review for y'all. And this one is Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy Degruy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Hopefully, I'm not butchering your name, sister. But yeah, post-traumatic slave syndrome is dope. Is deep. Shout outs to my homegirl. She gave me the book. You know, it was a required reading, I believe, for her job. I think she's a therapist, social worker, counselor, psychiatrist, all of the above. I always get this part wrong about her profession, but you know who you are. I appreciate you for giving me this book that changed my life. Back to the book. So that's the reason I read the book. Let me just read the back for y'all, because this book is fire. If there's one book that I have to recommend that will save your life and you ain't got to read nothing else, it's this book right here. Word up. So let me read the back real quick. So bear with me. You know, when I get new books, this is usually what I do. Like, I read the back of them to see if I really want to read them. And then, you know, that's how I usually make my choice. So this is part of the reason why I read it. And it says, in the 16th century, the beginning of African enslavement in the Americas until the ratification of the 13th Amendment and emancipation in 1865, Africans were hunted like animals, captured, sold, tortured, and raped. They experienced the worst kind of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual abuse. Given such history, isn't it likely that many of the enslaved were severely traumatized? And did the trauma and the effects of such horrific abuse end with the abolition of slavery? It's a very important question that she poses. It further on goes to say, emancipation was followed by 100 more years of institutionalized subjugation through the enactment of black codes and Jim Crow laws, convict leasing, domestic terrorism, and lynching. Today, the violations continue, and when combined with the crimes of the past, they result in yet unmeasured injury. What do repeated traumas endured generation after generation by a people produce? What impact have these ordeals had on African Americans today? So basically, she's talking about like the historical trauma, the generational trauma, the reoccurring trauma, and the sustained trauma, right, that we experience today. And the book also highlights, so let me, before I get into that, so this is why I chose to read the book. I read about post-traumatic slave syndrome. I see it on the title, America's Legacy of Enduring Injury and Healing. So I'm very big on healing, because like I always say that to know where you headed, you got to know where you've been. And if you don't know your history, you don't know what your people been through, you don't know anything about your past, then it's hard to really know who you are today and where you're headed. So I think that was one of the reasons that made me pick up this book and read it. The book is basically about just talking about, I know some of y'all might be familiar with post-traumatic stress disorder. So imagine somebody going to war, right? Some of us have veterans in our families, right? Some of our people have went overseas to fight wars. They come back, they be traumatized, they be having issues. It's hard for them to cope, re-enter society, a whole bunch of stuff. Now, let's think about the people that live in these communities. Let's think about people that live in the hood, right? Let's think about children that grow up constantly hearing gunfire, constantly witnessing their friends die, constantly witnessing like maybe police shootings, constantly just witnessing these violent acts in the community. Don't we think that that brings some type of like trauma, like some type of stress, right? So these young kids growing up in these communities, and they're already suffering from PTSD, right? They're already suffering from these gruesome images and situations that occurred on the day-to-day basis in their neighborhoods. Now, post-traumatic slave syndrome, she's taking it a step further into the studies of epigenetics, and she breaks down basically how long periods of trauma can actually alter your DNA. It actually alters your genetic coding. So which means that like you can be exhibiting behaviors that you might have not experienced. So you might have not gotten into a situation yourself personally, but because of some ancestor that went through something, and after you live in survival mode for a long time, it actually starts to change your genetic coding. So because you have the genes of this ancestor, you could be doing something and exhibiting some type of behavior that you don't even know where it come from. You understand what I'm saying? So this is how deep this book is. This book just basically connects you and maps on to the wounds that were inflicted upon our ancestors and how we have to basically do the healing for it. You know, and that's the gist of what the book is about. And that's why I'm telling you, y'all should go get it. So what I got from the book was basically, you know, I kind of like said both in the last little part. Yeah, I got that. It's like, yo, this is about like, we need this. It's very important for our healing journey. And I want to read y'all something real quick. It says, we must return and claim our past in order to move towards our future. It is in understanding who we were that will free us to embrace who we are now. So, like I said, man, to know where you headed, you got to know where you've been. And this is just basically what I got from the book. I feel like it was very important to understand how my genes might have been altered or might have been changed through long periods of sustaining trauma and from generational trauma. So my ancestors went through some stuff that I don't even know what they went through, and I might be a manifestation of that. And the way I plan on implementing this book is just, I always tell people to read it. I always encourage people that are from the diaspora, especially people who like to look down upon their own black folks, people who like to talk about choice a lot, people who like to shit on the decisions that other people have made based on them just looking from the outside, looking in. Those people are the people that I usually recommend this book to. And a lot of us is judgmental, so don't just be thinking about the people that, you know, because every time we hear something, we start thinking about, oh man, that sounds like Tyrone, that sounds like Tanisha, that sounds like, no, think about yourself, and think about how we do that often, you know, how we often judge, we often just put our own mind 2 cents to stuff, to situations. So this is a great book that kind of like will benefit people that always talking about choice, right? Because sometimes we don't really understand choice until you really speak to that person and know what they had to go through and why they did whatever they did. But this will help us understand our people better and will help us be a little more kind to each other, I believe. At least it has done for me. So let me know what y'all think. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Or peace.